a little bit of time over the weekend to do a quick recording talking about ARCHICAD input. Um, really just kind of looking at metric versus imperial units, helping to hopefully clarify some of this. Um, I understand how difficult it can be to learn the imperial system. It has to be like learning a new language. And the conversions, unfortunately, are not even necessarily that useful because they are just such uneven or difficult to translate numbers. Look, I did up a chart here on just a Google sheet to illustrate this. So 1 foot being 12 inches is 305 or 30.5 centimeters, millimeters or centimeters. 1 inch, on the other hand, is 25.4 millimeters, 2.54 millimeters. You can use these rules of thumb, I think, and I've used this in the past when working on a metric project to understand and kind of wrap your head around what these numbers mean. But you certainly can't take 2.5 centimeters and say that's an inch. It's 2.54, and that level of precision really does matter, but it gets you a ballpark at least, I hope. But I want to talk specifically about some of the difficulties you might experience in dealing with feet and inches and the numeric input of those. I think some of the things that might help is just considering the concept that feet and inches can be used together or sort of in isolation. It's not like where you would have certain number of centimeters and millimeters. You would just give the total number of centimeters or total number of millimeters in the metric system. But in the imperial system, you can say you have 5 feet 4.5 inches, for example. But if you think about 5 feet as being 60 inches, you would add 4 inches to that and a half, so you'd have 64.5 inches. That might help a little bit, I think, but I just want to kind of run through some of those input options. If I'm just drawing in with lines, for example. If I have a 1 foot line, I can type R and just type 1. The default in ARCHICAD is to input by feet. So if I type 1, I get 1 foot. If I want 1 inch, I can just type Shift R 1 inch. Or if I have, like I said, if you have combinations of feet and inches, and it's easy enough to sort of memorize those fractions into decimals, you can just put in the total inch value. So 1 inch is fine. 1.5 could be 1.5 inches. It could also be 1 space 1/2 inches. There's a number of different ways to put those in and get that same distance. But the reality is, if it's just a simple inches, like if you can remember those fractions to decimals, at least for every 1/8 inch, so 1/8 of an inch is 0.125, 1/4 inch is 0.25. If, for example, I have 1 5/8, you can certainly go 1 space 5 over 8 inches and get 1 5/8 inches. I think it's probably a little bit faster. It's always been faster for me just to go 1.625 inches. And that allows you to kind of use the numeric pad as well. So you're not kind of going back and forth between the standard alphabet keys and the numeric pad on the right of the keyboard. And this also works really well if you're working with longer distances. Like I said, if you have 5 feet and you know that that's 60 inches, 5 times 12, 60. Every foot is going to be 12 inches, so easy ones like 120 inches. But then if you have 129 and some change, so let's say we have 129 and 3/4 inches, 129.75 inches is 10 foot 9 and 3/4 inches. I don't know that this is easier to remember, but I think hopefully some of these kind of thought exercises, thought experiments, can help you at least start to wrap your head around why and how these can work. I think the main thing to know in ARCHICAD is that the default is for the units to be in feet. So if I just say 3, it's going to be 3 feet. If I have 3'6", I could say 3.5, and that's going to be 3'6" inches. But if you had 3'6" and a fraction, that might be where you switch from 3.5 to, let's say it's 3'6.5", not 3'6". You might say 42.5 inches. Might be faster than typing out the full 3'6.5 inches. So 42.5 is the same as 3'6.5" or 3'6.5". So those are kind of some concepts that I was thinking through on how to best explain this translation, or kind of mounting this learning curve, and kind of grasping this a little bit more solidly. Certainly we can talk about this through the training next week, but I hope right now, if you have time to watch this video before we meet, hopefully this kind of gets some of those questions cleared up, or at least gives the questions that we can answer during training next week. Thanks.